Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us here for another one of our Data Exchange Machine Monitoring webinar series. For April's topic, we have the RTV-driven results, advanced manufacturing dashboards to discuss. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First, as always, I like to go over the order of events for this morning's webinar, starting off with the data exchange dashboard types. We will be discussing the real-time dashboards that you can find inside of Data Display, which is our mobile and browser-based reporting tool, and I will be discussing the equipment view, the equipment summation, as well as the real-time list. Then we will be moving on to more of the meat of this webinar and be discussing the RTV, which is the real-time viewer. I will be talking about what the real-time viewer is, a breakdown of the RTV user interface, as well as some of the common dashboard views that you can find pre-canned with Data Exchange for your RTV screens. I'm also going to be discussing the notion of the endless configurability that you have with your data exchange manufacturing dashboards, as well as a demonstration of the new RTV designer that you can find in Data Display. I would like to let you all know that this RTV designer that is found in Data Display is still in pre-release. It officially kind of came out for a data exchange release last November, and at the end of March for a current data exchange release, we have added some more charts and also now reports into that. So if you'd like to have access to this RTV designer feature, please reach out to our support channel. I will be showing that here later on in this webinar. And then finally, I will be ending things off with how Scytec recommends you set up your manufacturing dashboards. So first up, I would like to discuss what are the Scytec Data Exchange dashboards. Scytec Data Exchange manufacturing dashboards are real-time and historical visual interfaces that display key performance indicators and metrics related to the production processes. They aggregate collected data from machines, sensors, external systems, and operators to provide a centralized, at-a-glance view of your operational performance, such as equipment utilization, downtime, OEE, part counts, cycle times, and more. And what we have over here on the right-hand side of the screen is a very typical dashboard screen that we have inside of our RTV real-time viewer, which shows your production machinery alarm. So we have two different charts down there at the bottom showing two Pareto charts, one by time and the other by occurrence. And then above that, we have our alarm grid, which can show you alarm types, codes, descriptions, and more. And I'm going to be showing you this alarm view a couple of times, as well as some other more common RTV screens as well later on in this webinar. Next up, we'll be discussing Scytec Data Exchange real-time dashboards that are available inside of Data Display. And there's three of them that I'm going to be covering in this morning's webinar, which include the equipment view, the real-time list, as well as the equipment summation list. So where are these located? If you go and log into your Data Display, you will be greeted more than likely by the Data Display Launchpad. And down towards about 2/3 of the way down the Launchpad, you will find where these three real-time equipment dashboards are located. And all three of them in order are the real-time list, the equipment view, and the equipment summation list. Now, the first one that I'm going to be discussing this morning is going to be our equipment view. And the equipment view is a browser-based set of user-configured equipment cards containing equipment information that is updated in real time. All information displayed here is configurable, and there are many options to enable or disable as desired in terms of data points that you see populated in the equipment view. The equipment guards group together multiple different types of data by equipment, and the equipment view is a powerful tool for monitoring the shop floor. This card-based view allows for a wide variety of customization while focusing entirely on the specific equipment relevant to the monitored location. So in the next slide, I'm going to be discussing what kind of data can be presented, but I kind of like to visually walk you through it here first. So if you look at this screenshot of the equipment view that you can see kind of in the center of the screen, we have four different cards with different colors showing 4 different pieces of equipment. On the far left side, we have a horizontal mill machine, and you can see the color orange that is kind of like all over this card. That orange is indicating that the specific equipment status is in an unknown downtime, and it's been in that specific duration for about 33 minutes. And you can see some other reported things that are below there that I'm going to be discussing here in the next slide. Next to that, we have a laser machine that is currently in a normal cycle that is indicative of the color green that you see, and it has been in that specific status for close to 26 minutes. And then so on and so forth. We have next a lathe machine that has currently been in a planned downtime, specifically a break for 24 minutes. And then next to that, we have another lathe machine that has been in tooling for 6 minutes based off of that color red that you see there. So I'd like to kind of discuss what some of the data points that you can have populate inside the equipment view, as well as go over the user interface for the equipment view. So if you look over there on the right side of the screen, we can see a selected piece of equipment, a single card that is a laser, and at the very top, pointed to the name, you can see where the equipment name populates. Underneath that, we have the general status, and that is the major breakdown of all the equipment statuses that you can have transpired over the available time, which include normal, such as cutting, being in cycle. Next to that, we have unknown downtime, which is anything that DataXchange doesn't have the ability to report as, what is specifically going on with that equipment gets reported as unknown downtime. And then next to that, that blue box that you see with the 0% in there, that is planned downtimes. That can be something, like a lunch break or something like that. And then finally, at the very last column that you see there in red, that 32%, that is unplanned downtime. That could be something like a tool breakage or something like that. And then below there, you can see the specific status, which is normally presented as a pie or donut, depending on your visual preference of that. And that gives you a better breakdown that the general status doesn't give you. And that can tell you things like, for the unplanned downtimes, for things like no material or low overrides, for giving you a more granular detail about what is going on with your machinery. Now, the main thing I'd like to discuss here for the user interface of the real-time equipment view is the current values. And I showed you kind of what can be populated in the previous slide, but I want to go into some further depth and detail about that with the current value. So if you look over on the left-hand side, you can see one long column with a bunch of data points that are turned either off and on. When you turn those on, that is what will populate here inside of the current value section of your real-time equipment view. And we have some things that are turned on right now, such as the specific equipment status, as well as the start date and time, utilization percentage, part numbers, program numbers, and you have a host of other options. This is not all of them that you see here, but you can also get things like work order numbers, the parts per hour plans, percentages, good and scrap part counts, as well as the logged in user for DataXchange and whether or not you are even connected to the DataXchange service. So those are all the things that can be populated inside of the current value section for your real-time equipment view. Underneath that, we have the target utilization, and you can see a bunch of blue dots there. The blue dots are meant to be what I would call user-defined utilization rates. So you also see 3 different colors: yellow, red, and green. So yellow, we'll say you have your equipment utilization rate set at 75%, meaning that you want to have your machines running about 75% of the time. Yellow means you're pretty close to that. So if you see the 2 yellow bars there, we have a 68 and a 70%, meaning that you're pretty close to that. Red next to that means that you are way off. So you can see the utilization reported rates for those 3 at 37, 21, and 3%, meaning that you are very far off from your utilization rates for your machines. Finally, we have green, which is either at your set rate or above it. So the utilization rates that we have set at 75, we are currently running at all available time for those machines. And you can see that by the 100% utilization in that red bar right above it. Below that, we also have our shift history showing part counts, both good and scrap parts. So we have on December 16th, we have 29 good parts created with 1 scrap part created. On the 17th, we have 34 scrap parts or good parts created and 0 scrap parts, so on and so forth. On the 19th of December, we have 17 good parts created and 2 scrap parts. Next up, I'm going to be discussing the real-time list. And the real-time list is a web-based grid displaying up-to-date information about equipment status and other information. Each of the columns can be shown or hidden, allowing the view to be configured based off the data that is being collected. Now, the way that I like to describe the value of the real-time list is it shows a lot of the data points that previously we discussed with the real-time viewer, but in a more streamlined fashion. So with the real-time equipment view, we advocate here at Scytec that is out on a TV, out on your shop floor, which I'm going to be showing you some images of later, or on a computer screen or something like that. But sometimes you're not available to have that kind of stuff out with you on the shop floor. So this is something that could be more viewed off of a phone from like an operator that shows you all of the necessary information that was shown with the real-time equipment view, but in a more streamlined manner. So it's not taking up all that visual space that the equipment view does. Finally, we have the equipment summation list. And the equipment summation list displays the total amount of status time for each selected machine, as well as totals for part counts and numerical custom variable values. The list can be viewed historically and can be viewed as a real-time view as well. This can be found next to the other real-time dashboards that we discussed earlier, including the real-time list and the equipment view that you can find inside of Data Display. And this is a newer offering that we have. This has only been around for about a year or so. It came out in a DataXchange release in 2025. And you can see a screenshot of it down there at the bottom, showing you the total amount of status time for each of the selected machinery, including a total summation of your in cycles, statuses, your planned downtimes, normal cycles, low overrides, high overrides, and as well as your custom variable accumulations there. Next up, we are going to be discussing the real-time viewer and how to set yours up to show data that is meaningful. So what is the real-time viewer? The Scytec RTV real-time viewer is a configurable dashboard that is designed to show data in a variety of formats. The data is automatically refreshed approximately once a minute, always providing up-to-date information. Now, if you've been with us for a while, you've been a DataXchange user, you probably remember that previously your RTV was only found in the desktop configuration tool. We have been taking a lot of historically found DataXchange features and putting them from the desktop configuration tool into Data Display. So all of your previously created RTV charts and views are now inside Data Display, as well as the RTV designer that I'm going to be showing you here in just a minute. But first, I'd like to discuss the RTV user interface. And if we're going to start over in the top left corner, we'll say it at like 11 o'clock, we have our current screen. That is currently what is being shown in your RTV rotation. What we are looking at here is the RTV alarm view that I discussed earlier, where there's 2 different charts down there at the bottom, both Pareto charts showing your alarms by occurrence and type. Above that, we have our alarm grid, which shows the equipment name, the alarm types, codes, descriptions, and the durations, quantity, and sums of the different alarms that you have had transpire over the available time that you are requesting DataXchange for. Next to that, we have our all screens access. And if you click on that, it's going to give you the full list of all the different RTV screens that you have created. Next to that, you will see a bunch of different boxes in a little ribbon bar up there with numbers inside all of them. That is all the screens that is going to be in your RTV rotation. The RTV, for those of you that are unaware, rotates at user-defined intervals. Usually about 10 seconds is what they start out as. So all of the different boxes with numbers in them that you see up there are going to rotate with different data that is presented that is meant to solve your guys' shop floor issues. So when you go and click play over there on the right where you see the arrow pointing down to rotation functions, it's going to cycle through all of these different all these different RTV screens that you see. And the numbers inside of the box are indicative of how many charts that there are inside of your RTV screen. So with this alarm view, we see the number 3 above it. That means that there's 3 different charts. Next to that, we have an equipment status RTV screen, which means that there's two different charts in there as well. So some common RTV views that I'm going to discuss. Also, DataXchange comes pre-canned with a bunch of RTV views ready to go that are kind of the most common for solving your shop floor issues. But these are some other common ones that I'm going to be detailing first verbally and then showing you here. So first up, we have the downtime detail, which shows downtime reasons, Pareto charts, and can be split up into different views based off equipment and or user groups. I've already gone over the alarm view a couple times, but that shows alarms by type, code, description, quantity, duration, and alarm Pareto charts by occurrence and time. Another common RTV view that we have is the OEE grid, which shows availability, performance, quality, and those user-defined little blue dots for targets that you set for your equipment, for utilization rates. Next up, we have the equipment status summary timeline chart for equipment statuses for shifts, employment groupings, as well as physical locations. And then finally, we're going to get to my favorite, which is the shop floor layout, which you can add any image, like a top-down schematic of your production facility showing the different machines, their current status, as well as those current values that I talked about with the real-time view. You can have those populate next to the machine. I'm going to show you this. The shop floor layout is definitely my favorite, as it's the most dynamic and the most visually appealing. We also have the ability for a common RTV view showing parts. We can show grids detailing current part numbers being worked on, as well as parts per hour percentages, plans, and the actual numbers of parts that have been created. The last two that I'm going to be discussing that are common RTV views are a utilization RTV view, which shows the current status of machines, shift summaries, and target utilization for equipment and whether or not your needs are being met. And then finally, we have a neat little feature for RTV where you can embed web pages such as like employee login portals, as well as Microsoft Office documents, Power BI, and Tableau embeds as well. So as I said, my favorite to show is the shop floor layout. And what's typically used by DataXchange customers is a kind of top-down bird's eye view of your production floor. And what we are looking at here is a top-down schematic of what could be your production facility, showing at, we'll say, kind of at 1 o'clock up there, we have a Mazak machine that, based off of that green color, it is in a normal cycle. Specifically, it is cutting, it is in cycle, and we can also see that the part number that is being worked on, all of those current values that I discussed earlier, you can have show in your shop floor layout next to your machinery. Next to that, we have at 2 o'clock, we have a Morisaki machine that is currently at a general status in a planned downtime, but more specifically is in a break. It's also showing the part number that is currently being worked on. And below that, we have a Haas machine that, once again, can show you that it's in a normal cycle, as well as the current part that is being worked on. Now, as I said earlier, what's really nice about the shop floor layout is it doesn't have to necessarily be this top-down schematic kind of image. You can also use any image that you would like. So here we are looking at 3D models of two different machines. On the left, we have a machine with a FANUC 31i control. Next to that, we have a Siemens 840D equipped machine. And you can see, based off of their colors, that the FANUC machine is currently in an alarm based off of that red color. And then next to that, the Siemens machine is in a normal cutting cycle based off of that green. With the shop floor layout, basically what you do is you draw a kind of perimeter around the machines that you want to get information off of. And then once you have that completed and it's showing inside of your RTV, once that specific machine status transpires, it'll show that corresponding color as well. And as I mentioned, you have the ability to have a bunch of different current values next to the machines based off of what it was reporting. So with these two machines here that we have the status duration of the current machine status, the part number that is being worked on, the good part count that has currently been produced. And then finally, we can also show some other kind of neat things like feed rate overrides for both of the machines. Once again, I'm going to show the alarm view. I don't really feel like I need to go into this again for the third time, but this is a very common view that a lot of DataXchange manufacturers and users like to have. Next up, we have our utilization view. And there's three different charts that are being shown in here in the utilization view. So starting in the left-hand upper left side, we can see we have a utilization chart, which shows those little blue dots for the user demanded utilization rates and whether or not your machinery is hitting those. Below that, we have an equipment status summary chart, which you select a time frame that you want all of the machinery that you would like to have requested information for, and it'll show you with the equipment status summary all of those machine statuses that have transpired over in that time frame. So we have a bunch of different colors down there that you can see over on the right side that are dictated by what they are representing. So the color red is alarms. We have blade changes, brakes, high and low overrides, M0 pauses, waiting for operator, no materials, normal cutting being in cycles, as well as preventative maintenance, setup, tooling, unknown downtimes, and warm-ups. And then finally, on the right-hand side, you can see that big chart over there. That is a downtime detail showing you the different downtimes that have transpired across your machinery. And with the RTV, you can definitely play around with the layouts of this, which I'm going to show you in a demonstration here kind of later on. So we have two charts that are right on top of each other, and then also our downtime detail that is taking up half of the available screen. You can rearrange the charts and reports in the RTV to your heart's content. I also mentioned that we have the ability to embed Power BI as well as Tableau embeds into the RTV charts, as well as Microsoft Office documents. And then finally, we have our web browser view where you can paste a URL into the RTV. We have, just for the sake of demonstration, we have a Wikipedia kind of homepage, but it's common to see things like employee login portals with the web browser view inside of the real-time viewer. Next up, I'd like to discuss the endless configurability of the dashboards, as well as the new RTV designer in data display. And I kind of already talked about this here with just a second about how you can rearrange all the different charts and reports inside of your RTV view to show you data that is meaningful for alleviating your shop floor woes. So previously, the RTV dashboard designer was found in the desktop configuration tool for Scytec DataXchange. Users could configure their dashboard views with the ability to choose specific charts from DataXchange and arrange them in a meaningful way. So if you've been a long-time DataXchange user, you might know, or you might remember this from the image over there on the right-hand side where you could rearrange all of the different charts. With the RTV, all of the different views are endless and endlessly configurable, so you can have an unlimited amount of RTV views. However, this is no longer the case. You are no longer going to be designing and viewing your RTV charts and reports in the desktop configuration tool for DataXchange. They are now only available inside of Data Display, our mobile and browser-based reporting tool. And as of recently, you also not be designing your RTV views inside of the desktop configuration tools. This is now going to be done in Data Display going forward. However, this is still a pre-release, and as I mentioned earlier, we would like you to reach out to us at our support channels here at Scytec if you'd like to have access to this. This is going to be a continuing trend for previously found DataXchange features that were only available in the desktop configuration tool. They are going to be finding their way sooner or later into Data Display if they are not already there. And in the future, users can look forward to ODI making its way into Data Display as well soon. ODI historically was found in the desktop version of DataXchange, as well as its own standalone Windows desktop application and mobile application as well. But sooner or later, ODI is going to be making its way into Data Display as well. Next up, I'm going to be discussing the RTV Designer and Data Display. And starting off with its initial release in a DataXchange update that came out in November of 2025, the RTV Designer is now in Data Display. And this release was limited and has been rolling out since then to DataXchange users who have requested early access to it. As I mentioned, we have to go into your account and manually turn this on. And you can access this pre-release feature by reaching out to us at dxhelp.scytec.com, where we will walk you through how this new design process works, where you can find it. You can find it up there in the top left-hand corner with the 3 lines by where your management options are as well. I'm going to be showing you here a demonstration here in just a second, but this past March, right at the very last day of March going into April, DataXchange saw a new update release with additional screens that were added to the RTV designers as well as reports, and the included RTV charts that you can select from for making your RTV views now include the alarm Pareto, downtime detail, downtime Pareto, OE summary, part count, scrap Pareto, summary per period, trend, utilization, utilization per period, and utilization trends. All those charts are now available for your RTV designing pleasure. And then also now we have reports that you can embed inside of your RTV views, which include the alarm detail, alarm summary, average operation time, downtime summary, equipment status detail, equipment status per period, equipment status summary, and operation time. So I'd like to do a quick demonstration of here about how you can kind of create your own RTV dashboards now inside of Data Display. I have a quick little video that I'm going to show you. But verbally, I'd kind of like to describe where you can find this. And once again, you do have to reach out to us here at Scytec. So if you go up to the top 3 lines in your Data Display Launchpad, you can go down to the RTV Designer, which is in between the Manage and Logout section, where you can click on Create a New RTV screen, where you can go ahead and name that with that image down there at the bottom. You also have the ability to copy an RTV screen. You can modify it, change out the different charts and reports. You can rename it, delete it. You can also share that with other people that are DataXchange users, as well as copy that URL, and you can put that in an email so somebody can just get that specific RTV view. And you can also schedule your RTV views for to get them sent to you in your inbox on a recurring basis if you are, wanting to be prepared for a gimbal walk or a 7:30 a.m. production meeting, that you can have these RTVs sent to you on a recurring basis. So now I'm going to show you the video where we walk through the design process here with the new RTV Designer in Data Display. So as I said, you come up to the top 3 lines. You find where it says RTV Designer, click on that. We are going to create a new one where you're going to name it. I'm going to call this Test for the sake of this webinar. Then you're going to click inside of the control panel to decide which one of the charts that you want to go with. I'm going to go with a alarm Pareto. And then from there, you do the normal time and equipment filtering. So I'm going to select the previous week or this week. Yeah, I'm sorry, actually last week. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to select my equipment. So I'm going to go down and click on our Fort Collins plant and select all that equipment from the available section. And then you will see that populate inside of the selected section. From there, you can make your alarm Pareto chart, which you will see then there populate inside of your RTV Designer. Next up, we are going to have a chart right next to that based off of the configuration panel. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to select a downtime detail chart. Once again, we're going to be doing all the same filtering where we select the time frame that we want the information reported off of. Same thing with the equipment. I am once again going to go down and select all the equipment from our Fort Collins plant, and then I'm going to submit that. And then thusly, we have our RTV view here showing us an alarm Pareto chart as well as a downtime summary chart. So next up, I'd like to discuss how Scytec recommends you set up and use your DataXchange dashboards. So this is a pretty common setup that we have for our DataXchange dashboards that we recommend our DataXchange manufacturing users to use. And what you need is a mini Melee PC, like what you can see over there on the right. It doesn't have to be the Melee brand. We just like them. We also advocate for you to use the 16 gigabyte fanless model. And the reason why we advocate here at Scytec for the fanless model is that out on your shop floor, you have a lot of coolant and other particulates just floating around in the atmosphere. That can go and kind of gunk up those fans And the reason why we actually advocate for the 16 gigabyte model as opposed to the 8 gigabyte model, which we previously advocated for, is that mainly Windows, the operating system that is on these mini PCs, is starting to take up a lot more room. So to be able to view this, you would then have a TV mounted to like a tripod, which you can see over there in the left-hand corner. And you have a television with an HDMI port that you could take from this mini PC and plug it into that, and then have a keyboard and wireless mice that you can have your dashboard set up to be like, for the RTV, where you have all of those different views. You can have it rotate through all of the different dashboards that you have created, exposing the data that is valuable for your shop floor to solve those different issues that you guys have going out on your shop floor. So here are some screenshots of clients that use our DataXchange dashboards in ways that I like to present here on our webinars. The big one that you can see, they have TVs that are hanging from the ceilings that have been equipped with those mini PCs and are showing the real-time equipment view. So imagine that you're an operator working inside of a cell. You got 3-4 different machines that you are currently in charge of. You can look up on the ceiling here and see all the different statuses that are going on in those machines. So like one is currently in a low override, and then another one is currently cutting. And then below that, we have 2 other examples of our dashboards. These are both RTV charts that are hung up on a wall. The other one on the far right bottom side, that is inside of a break room, showing different RTV views there as well. And finally, I'd like to kind of discuss a typical DataXchange setup that you can have out on your shop floor. And we have the use of the real-time equipment view on a TV mounted to a tripod using the DataXchange ODI tablet. Next to that, on the Haas machine on the far left side, the ODI is on a floor stand, and the real-time equipment view is on a TV mounted to a tripod. There's 4 machines that are being monitored inside of this cell, and the dashboard is showing the real-time equipment statuses of those 4 machines as well as their utilization. And the ODI tablet is there for operator input of downtimes that cannot automatically be collected off of machines, as well as part counts and custom commands that you can get through ODI use. And another good reason to have the ODI there is, as I said, there's just some machine statuses that are not going to be completely indicative of what is actually going on. So you might have an unplanned downtime that gets reported as that. Somebody can be in the ODI and report that unplanned downtime as what is specific to what has actually happened, such as like a broken tool that I mentioned earlier. And there's some other devices and locations used that you can have with your Scytec DataXchange dashboard, like including having it in an executive boardroom where you can remotely monitor your shop floor production process, a supervisor's office, the lunchroom that I mentioned earlier, hanging from a ceiling, all for the purpose of remote viewing your operations as they would be transpiring. And the DataXchange dashboards are available on data display for smart tablets, computer, and phones as well. However, we recommend that the dashboards are put on a TV or a computer screen just due to the visual volume that they take up. Finally, this is about wrapping it up here for our webinar this morning. I always like to discuss the Scytec University Help website, which can be found at dxhelp.scytec.com. It is host to a number of different tutorials, frequently asked questions, how you can break data exchange down for specific role use, such as if you're a manager, an operator, machinist, etc., and then different scenarios that you can use data exchange. Please go to this website, which you can find at dxhelp.scytec.com for more information. And then finally, I always like to end our webinars with what's coming up. We have at the end of May, lights out operations, automated monitoring strategies from DataXchange. And then at the end of June, we are going to have a webinar based off of shop floor connectivity. What kind of data gets exchanged, which we're going to be discussing the direct protocol access that DataXchange has that can retrieve a litany of data points that go far and beyond, is my machine running or not running. So that about wraps up this morning's webinar. As usual, you can always find these in our newsletter and on YouTube as well. I'd like to thank you all for joining us here this morning, and have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.